There is a quiet danger in living a life that feels comfortable. Many women, without even realizing it, settle for mediocrity. They convince themselves that avoiding risk, avoiding challenges, and avoiding the discomfort of growth is somehow the wisest path. And at first glance, it seems logical after all. Safety is appealing. Staying within the familiar, keeping routines predictable, not pushing the boundaries, it all feels secure. But here's the truth. Comfort is often the mask of unfulfilled potential. It's the velvet chain that keeps her bound to a version of life far smaller than the one she was meant to live. The woman who settles for mediocrity often measures her life by external, shallow standards. She looks at what others have and thinks, if I have that, I'm doing okay. She glances at friends, colleagues, or family members and believes that as long as she is keeping up, she is on the right path. Yet inside, there's an inner voice whispering that this is not enough. That whisper grows louder over time, though she may dismiss it, telling herself, I'm fine. This is enough, but it's never truly enough. Deep down, she knows that her talents, her ideas, and her unique gifts deserve more. They were never meant to be hidden, yet she buries them under routines, comfort, and fear. Fear is the invisible force behind settling. It whispers, what if you fail? What if you make a mistake? What if you are judged? And so she convinces herself that the safe path, the one without risk, is the only rational choice. She forgets that growth always demands courage. She forgets that every great life, every meaningful accomplishment requires stepping into the unknown, daring to stretch beyond what feels familiar. The moment she chooses comfort over courage, she begins a slow drift away from the life she was designed to lead. Another sign of this pattern is how she treats her own ambition. They are often neglected, postponed, or dismissed as unrealistic. She may dream of starting a project, launching a business, or pursuing a passion, but the fear of struggle or failure keeps her from taking the first step. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and years can pass without meaningful progress. It is easy to tell oneself, tomorrow I will start. But tomorrow, as it always does, arrives with the same hesitation and the same excuses. And in this loop, mediocrity becomes normalized, even comfortable. Settling for mediocrity doesn't always look dramatic. It doesn't always scream failure. On the outside, a woman may appear successful, even admired. She may have a good job, a family, or a social circle that praises her stability. But inside, there is often a quiet unrest. The soul recognizes its own untapped potential, and that recognition manifests as dissatisfaction, even if she cannot name it. She feels constrained by invisible walls she has built herself, fearing the very freedom that would allow her to thrive. And the paradox is that she often confuses these walls with protection, not realizing they are the very barriers that keep her from her true purpose. It is also important to notice how comparison fuels mediocrity. The woman who settles often evaluates herself not against her own potential, but against others' accomplishments. She thinks, I am doing better than so-and-so, or at least I am not failing like them. But life is not a contest. It is a canvas for one's own expression. Measuring her progress against others blinds her to the unique gifts she was meant to cultivate. It distracts her from the internal compass that points toward her own purpose. And in the shadows of comparison, mediocrity becomes a false comfort, a way to avoid the responsibility of being exceptional in her own way, what keeps her from stepping into her true potential is not just fear, but also a lack of vision. Many women are so focused on surviving, on managing daily responsibilities, maintaining relationships, and fulfilling societal expectations that they lose sight of the bigger picture. They forget to ask themselves, what am I capable of? What legacy could I leave? What impact could I make if I fully embraced who I am? Without a vision, the extraordinary remains an abstract idea, and she drifts along a path dictated by circumstances rather than intention. Yet the path to embracing potential is always available. It begins with small acts of courage, challenging a limiting belief, pursuing a latent interest, speaking up when it's uncomfortable, or taking a step toward a long-postponed dream. Growth is not about perfection. It is about daring to move in the direction of what feels meaningful. Every step taken toward her true potential is a step away from the comfortable cage of mediocrity. And with each step, her confidence, clarity, and sense of purpose grow. She begins to recognize that discomfort is not the enemy. It is the sign that she's moving towards something greater. Ultimately, settling for mediocrity is a choice, often made unconsciously, but a choice nonetheless. The difference between a life half-lived and a life fully embraced is not luck or circumstance. It is the decision to honor one's potential, to face fear, and to act despite uncertainty. Every woman has the capacity to live beyond what she thinks is possible, to embrace her talents, and to shine in ways that the world has never seen before. The only question is whether she will allow herself to step out of the comfortable shadow and into the brilliance of her own God-given purpose. And that step, though small, changes everything. There is a subtle, almost invisible trap that catches many women before they even realize it. The habit of living for other people's approval. At first, it seems harmless, even virtuous. We are social beings, after all, and seeking acceptance from family, friends, or society is a natural part of life. But when approval becomes the primary compass guiding every choice, every decision, and every dream, it quietly steals her power. Instead of following her own desires, her unique instincts, or her true calling, she becomes a reflection of what she believes others want to see. She bends, she molds, she adjusts, and in the process, she silences the voice that was meant to lead her toward her God-given purpose. This need for external validation often starts innocently. Compliments are gratifying, praise feels comforting, and approval can feel like safety. But over time, seeking it becomes a default mode of operation. She asks herself, will they like me? Will they approve of this decision? Before even considering, do I want this? Does this align with my values? Life becomes less about authenticity and more about compliance. And with each choice made to satisfy someone else, she drifts further from the life she was meant to lead. Women who constantly seek approval often live in a state of tension. They are performing, adjusting their behavior, and censoring their thoughts to meet the expectations of others. They may smile when they do not feel happy, agree when they do not truly consent, and suppress ideas that could be revolutionary for fear of judgment. It is exhausting because it is never ending. There is no final measure of enough when your self-worth is tied to the opinions of others. One moment she might feel validated, and the next she is anxious, wondering if her latest action was adequate, if she said the right words, if she looked the right way. What makes this pattern particularly insidious is that it erodes self-trust. When a woman constantly looks outward for direction, she stops listening to her inner voice. That inner compass, the one that knows what she truly desires and what she is capable of, becomes muffled. Decisions are filtered through an invisible crowd, imaginary critics, social expectations, and the silent judgment of those whose opinions she values most. She loses confidence in her own judgment, believing that her instincts are less important than the nods, smiles, and approval she seeks. This behavior also limits growth. Living to please others keeps her in a zone of predictability and conformity. Innovation, creativity, and authenticity require risk and a willingness to stand apart, and those are difficult when approver. L is the ultimate goal. Every time she silences her ideas to avoid criticism, she denies the world the unique gifts she carries. Every time she chooses acceptance over authenticity, she distances herself from her true purpose. And the irony is that true approval, the kind that nourishes the soul, cannot come from others. It emerges when a woman honors herself, acts courageously, and aligns her life with her values and passions. The need for approval can appear in countless forms. She may choose a career because it is respected or prestigious, rather than because it ignites her passion. She may remain in a relationship because others see it as ideal, not because it nourishes her heart. She may adopt beliefs, hobbies, or lifestyles that feel expected rather than desired. And in every case, the outcome is the same. A life lived in imitation, never fully authentic, never fully alive. Moreover, this constant search for validation often leads to anxiety and self-doubt. Every decision is weighed against potential criticism, every choice shadowed by what if they disapprove. This creates a mental loop that is difficult to break. She fears judgment, so she conforms. And conforming ensures that her authentic self remains dormant. The paradox is painful. In trying to gain approval, she loses the very essence that would naturally command respect and admiration. People are drawn not to those who perfectly mirror expectations, but to those who live fully, courageously, and authentically. BR. Eking free from this pattern begins with a simple yet profound act, turning inward. It requires learning to listen to that inner voice, that quiet knowing of what feels right, what feels aligned, and what brings genuine joy. It requires practicing self-validation, affirming one's choices, and giving oneself permission to act according to personal truth rather than external expectation. It may feel uncomfortable at first. Fear, guilt, and doubt often accompany the initial steps, but each act of alignment strengthens confidence, self-trust, and clarity. Another crucial element is understanding that approval is not the same as respect or love. True respect arises from authenticity, courage, and integrity. People admire those who live aligned with their values, who act purposefully, and who embrace their uniqueness. Approval, on the other hand, is fleeting, conditional, and often shallow. When a woman shifts her focus from approval to authenticity, she discovers a profound freedom. Freedom to make choices that honor her potential, freedom to express her talent fully, and freedom to live the life she was meant to live without apology. Ultimately, the journey away from seeking approval is the journey toward reclaiming her purpose. Each time she chooses herself over the expectations of others, she reclaims a piece of her power. Each time she acts from her own values, she strengthens her connection to her gifts. And each time she silences the fear of judgment to embrace what she was meant to be, she moves closer to the life she was born to. Live, approval may always exist, but it should never govern her life. The only approval that truly matters is the one she gives herself. There is a particular kind of unease that quietly seeps into the life of a woman living beneath her God-given purpose. It is not always obvious at first. On the surface, she may appear to be managing well, her days structured, her responsibilities met, her social life seemingly full. Yet beneath this exterior, there's a persistent whisper of discontent, a subtle tension that never fully goes away. It is a restlessness that cannot be ignored because it is the soul's way of signaling that something essential is missing. The life she is living, though it may appear safe or sufficient, does not resonate with the deepest part of who she truly is. Chronic dissatisfaction is insidious because it disguises itself as normalcy. She may tell herself, "This is just how life is," or "everyone struggles with this." But the truth is that this feeling is not meant to be permanent. It is not a reflection of external circumstances alone. It is a reflection of the disconnection between her daily life and her inner calling. She may have a stable job, a comfortable home, and loving relationships, yet there remains a nagging emptiness. It is the emptiness of untapped potential, of dreams deferred, of gifts unexpressed. And the longer she ignores it, the louder the signal becomes, manifesting as anxiety, irritability, or even a vague sense of meaninglessness. Restlessness often takes the form of dissatisfaction with everything and nothing simultaneously. She might find herself critical of her surroundings, of the people she interacts with, or of the work she does, yet the dissatisfaction is not external, it is internal. It stems from the sense that she is living below the life she was created to live. No accomplishment, no praise, no material gain can fully quiet this inner unrest, because it is rooted in purpose, not circumstance. She may feel the pull of something greater, but remain unsure of how to reach it. Or worse, she may deny that pull altogether. In order to cling to the illusion of contentment, this inner discontent often fuels a subtle pattern of escapism. She may fill her days with distractions, social media, entertainment, endless errands, anything to numb the quiet voice that keeps asking, is this all there is? Yet no distraction, no matter how absorbing, can permanently silence the soul's call. Restlessness is persistent. Because it is not a problem to be solved, it is a signal to be honored. It exists to redirect her toward her authentic path, to remind her that her life is meant for more than mere survival or passive existence. A woman living beneath her purpose may also struggle to feel fulfilled even when she achieves external success. Promotions, accolades, or recognition might briefly lift her spirits, but these accomplishments are often hollow, leaving her why? The same persistent longing. This is because fulfillment is never granted by others or by circumstances. It is cultivated from alignment with one's own gifts, values, and passion. When she neglects what she was designed to contribute to the world, satisfaction remains elusive and life feels like a series of checkboxes rather than an expression of her true self. Restlessness can also manifest as indecision or avoidance. She may frequently change jobs, relationships, or projects, searching for something that finally brings a sense of meaning. She may travel from one experience to another, hoping that the next adventure will resolve the emptiness. Yet the pattern repeats. The problem is not the external circumstances, the problem is the disconnection from purpose. Until she recognizes this, the restlessness will persist. No matter where she goes or what she acquires, another subtle sign of this chronic dissatisfaction is a tendency to compare herself to others, often with a sense of longing or envy. She may look at women who seem fulfilled and wonder why she cannot achieve the same sense of contentment. The comparison may trigger guilt, frustration, or self-criticism, but these emotions are secondary. They are simply byproducts of the real issue. Her own life is not aligned with her potential. The ache she feels is a call to awaken, to step beyond the comfort zone she has clung to, and to pursue what truly resonates with her spirit. Overcoming this restlessness begins with awareness. She must acknowledge that her dissatisfaction is not a personal flaw, but a signal, a wake-up call that her life requires realignment. It demands courage to look honestly at her daily routines, her choices, and her unfulfilled dreams. It requires asking difficult questions. Am I living for myself or for others? Am I expressing my true talents and passion? What would my life look like if I allowed myself to fully embrace my purpose? These questions are uncomfortable because they confront long-standing habits, fears, and beliefs, yet they are essential for awakening. The next step is action. Restlessness is not resolved through contemplation alone. It requires concrete steps toward alignment. She can begin by identifying small ways to honor her passions, develop her skills, and invest in experiences that resonate with her authentic self. Each act of alignment, no matter how small, gradually diminishes the dissonance within her. Over time, the chronic dissatisfaction transforms into a productive energy, a hunger for growth, a curiosity for life, and a courage to pursue the extraordinary. Ultimately, this restlessness is not a burden, it is a gift. It is the soul's way of insisting that she live in accordance with her God-given potential. It will continue to whisper, to stir, and to push until she dares to respond. Every step she takes toward authenticity, every risk she embraces, every passion she nurtures, is a step toward quieting the ache and embracing a life of meaning and fulfillment. Restlessness is the signal that she's ready to live fully, and it is impossible to ignore without losing a part of herself forever. One of the most revealing signs that a woman is living beneath her God-given purpose is her tendency to avoid responsibility for her own life. Responsibility does not mean carrying the weight of the world or being flawless. It means acknowledging that her choices, actions, and mindset shape the trajectory of her existence. Yet many women fall into a quiet trap. They give away their power, blaming circumstances, other people, or sheer bad luck for the state of their lives. The problem is subtle, often rationalized with convincing stories, but the consequence is always the same alike. Lived in the shadow of what could have been, avoiding responsibility often begins with externalizing blame. When a career does not progress, a relationship falters, or personal goals go unmet, she may say, "It's not my fault," or "I can't do anything about it." While this may offer temporary relief, it prevents her from taking the very steps that could change her situation. Life, after all, does not hand fulfillment or purpose to those who wait passively. It rewards those who take ownership of their choices, who confront challenges, and who dare to act despite uncertainty. By refusing to claim responsibility, she relinquishes control over her potential and leaves her dreams to chance. This pattern is often reinforced by fear. Responsibility requires courage, the courage to confront uncomfortable truths, to admit mistakes, and to acknowledge personal shortcomings. Many women avoid this because the truth can feel heavy, even frightening. It is easier to tell oneself that circumstances, other people, or external forces are to blame than to confront the reality that every decision, no matter how small, contributes to the life she is living. And yet, avoiding this truth is precisely what keeps her trapped in mediocrity, prevents her from fully expressing her gifts, and keeps her disconnected from her purpose. Avoidance also shows up in decision-making. She may postpone important choices, defer to others, or allow life to unfold according to the expectations of those around her. She may think that by waiting for the right time, or for someone else to guide her, she is protecting herself. But what she's really doing is sacrificing her autonomy. Each day that passes without deliberate action is a day further removed from the life she was meant to lead. The irony is cruel. She waits for circumstances to change, but circumstances rarely change without action. Responsibility is not punishment, it is liberation. The key to reclaiming the life she was designed to live. Another dimension of avoiding responsibility is the tendency to live reactively rather than proactively. When life throws challenges her way, she may focus on complaining, criticizing, or resenting the situation instead of seeking solutions. She may dwell on past mistakes, external injustices, or missed opportunities, creating a mental loop that reinforces helplessness. Yet life rarely unfolds perfectly, and fulfillment is not found in lamenting what cannot be changed. It is found in acting on what can. Every woman has the capacity to respond creatively and courageously to the circumstances she faces. Avoiding responsibility robs her of this power and leaves her feeling smaller, frustrated, and disconnected from her purpose. Avoiding responsibility often affects relationships as well. She may blame partners, family members, or friends for her unhappiness rather than examining her own role in creating or perpetuating dissatisfaction. She may rely on others to fix her life or to validate her decisions, rather than cultivating self-reliance and clarity. While support from others is natural and necessary, a life dominated by dependence on external forces is one where purpose is compromised. Her growth, fulfillment, and alignment with her gifts require that she step fully into her own power, taking responsibility for her choices, her mindset, and her actions. The consequences of avoiding responsibility are profound. It breeds a sense of victimhood, which may initially feel comforting because it excuses effort and shields her from criticism. But in the long term, victimhood is imprisoning. It fosters resentment, stagnation, and an endless cycle of dissatisfaction. The soul knows when it is being ignored, and the longer she deflects responsibility, the more disconnected she becomes from her potential. The ache of unrealized purpose grows louder with each year, each unclaimed opportunity, and each choice deferred to fear or external influence. Breaking free from this cycle begins with a radical act of honesty. She must look in the mirror and confront the ways she has surrendered her power. This requires self-reflection and a willingness to examine the stories she tells herself. The justifications, excuses, and rationalizations that have been guiding her decisions. Only when she acknowledges the truth without judgment can she reclaim agency over her life. Responsibility is not about guilt, it is about ownership and the deliberate cultivation of a life that reflects her values, passions, and gifts. Once she accepts responsibility, she begins to see the freedom it brings. Every choice becomes an opportunity to align with her purpose. Every challenge is reframed as a chance to grow rather than a burden to endure. The act of taking responsibility transforms fear into power, passivity into action, and stagnation into movement. It is through responsibility that she discovers that she is the architect of her destiny, the creator of her opportunities, and the steward of her potential. Ultimately, avoiding responsibility is a subtle form of self-sabotage that quietly erodes the connection between a woman and her true purpose. The moment she embraces accountability for her choices, her mindset, and her actions, she steps into her power. She realizes that the life she desires is not given, it is claimed, and that her greatest fulfillment comes from daring to take control of her journey and honoring the gifts she was born to share with the world. Responsibility is not a burden, it is the bridge to the life she was meant to live. One of the clearest signs that a woman is living beneath her God-given purpose is her neglect of personal growth and inner development. Life demands more than simply existing, it calls for continuous evolution, a conscious effort to become the fullest version of oneself. Yet so many women fall into a subtle trap. They focus exclusively on external obligations, social expectations, or the immediate needs of others, all while ignoring the deeper work that nourishes the soul, sharpens the mind, and expands the heart. In doing so, they inadvertently confine themselves to a version of life that is smaller than what they are capable of achieving. Personal growth is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It is the foundation upon which fulfillment, purpose, and meaningful contribution are built. When a woman neglects it, she begins to stagnate. Her talents may remain underdeveloped, her perspectives narrow, and her inner potential untapped. She may complete daily routines and manage responsibilities with efficiency, yet a subtle emptiness persists. A sense that she is merely maintaining rather than thriving. Life is not meant to be a checklist of tasks. It is meant to be an evolving journey in which the soul, mind, and spirit are nurtured, challenged, and expanded. Neglecting inner development often starts with underestimating its importance. She may believe that work, relationships, or external achievements are sufficient to define success. She may think that learning new skills, reflecting on her emotions, or cultivating self-awareness is optional, something to consider later. The problem is that later rarely comes, and without conscious investment in growth, the soul quietly shrinks, the heart grows restless, and the mind remains limited. True fulfillment, however, cannot be borrowed from external circumstances, is cultivated internally. Without it, life feels fragmented, and purpose remains elusive. This neglect often manifests in avoidance. Now growth requires introspection, reflection, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. It asks a woman to examine her habits, her mindset, and the beliefs that shape her behavior. It demands she face fear, self-doubt, and patterns that may no longer serve her. Avoiding this work is easier in the short term because it shields her from discomfort. But in the long term, avoidance becomes a barrier that separates her from her potential. The very talents, insights, and gifts she was born to develop remain dormant, waiting for the attention, courage, and discipline that she has withheld. Another consequence of neglecting growth is that life becomes repetitive and uninspired. Without deliberate effort to expand her skills, challenge her assumptions, or deepen her understanding, she can fall into patterns of predictability. Each day becomes a mirror of the last, and the vibrant spark of curiosity, creativity, and exploration diminishes. A life without growth is not truly alive. It is maintained, controlled, and restrained. While routine may offer comfort, it cannot replace the profound satisfaction of evolving toward the best version of oneself Neglecting inner development also affects emotional resilience and self-awareness. Growth teaches a woman to navigate challenges, manage her emotions, and respond to life with wisdom rather than reactivity. Without it, minor setbacks can feel insurmountable, criticism can feel devastating, and uncertainty can become paralyzing. She may find herself repeating the same mistakes or reacting to circumstances in ways that keep her stuck. Personal growth, by contrast, provides the tools to navigate life deliberately with clarity, courage, and adaptability. It transforms challenges into opportunities for learning and self-discovery rather than. Sources of discouragement, spiritual and intellectual development are equally vital. Ignoring these dimensions leaves her disconnected from her inner values, her guiding principles, and her unique vision for life. Spiritual growth connects her to purpose beyond material success, reminding her that she was born to contribute, create, and influence. Intellectual growth sharpens the mind, expands perspective, and fosters creativity. Both are necessary for a life of depth, meaning, and impact. A woman who neglects them is at risk of living a life that is technically functional, but profoundly unfulfilled. Breaking this cycle begins with a conscious choice to invest in herself. Personal growth is intentional. It requires planning, curiosity, and courage. She can start by dedicating time to self-reflection, exploring new areas of learning, engaging in practice that strengthen emotional intelligence, and seeking experiences that stretch her comfort zones. Each small step toward inner development compounds over time, gradually transforming stagnation into vibrancy, doubt into confidence, and unfulfilled potential into realized gifts. Growth is never instantaneous, but it is cumulative, and it always moves a woman closer to the light she was designed to live. The journey of inner development is also a journey of self-discovery. It reveals strengths she may have overlooked, passions she may have buried, and capacities she may have underestimated. It allows her to recognize the patterns that hold her back and equips her with the tools to overcome them. In essence, personal growth is the pathway from a life that merely happens to a life that is intentionally crafted, a life that resonates with purpose, authenticity, and fulfillment. Ultimately, neglecting personal growth is a form of self-denial. It is the choice to remain small when she was meant to expand, to stay passive when she was meant to act, and to drift when she was meant to steer her own course. Conversely, embracing growth is an act of courage, love, and respect for oneself. It is a declaration, and that she is worthy of her gifts, capable of transformation, and destined for more than mere survival. Every moment invested in developing her mind, heart, and spirit strengthens her connection to her God-given purpose, bringing her closer to the life she was born to live. Growth is not optional, it is essential, and it is the key to unlocking the full expression of her potential. Perhaps the most heartbreaking sign that a woman is living beneath her God-given purpose is the suppression of her passions and unique gifts. Deep down, she knows the ideas that excite her, the talents that come naturally, the dreams that stir her heart, yet she hides them, ignores them, or convinces herself they are unimportant. Life has a way of nudging her into routines, obligations, and social expectations that seem practical or safe. But in doing so, she places a lid over the very fire that could illuminate her life and impact the world. Suppressing her gifts is more than simply postponing goals. It is a quiet denial of her own essence, a refusal to honor the unique contribution she was born to make. This suppression often begins with fear, the fear of failure, rejection, or judgment. She may think, what if I try and I fail? Or what if they laugh at me? Fear convinces her that staying invisible is safer than stepping into her brilliance. But safety is deceptive. By holding back, she avoids temporary discomfort while sacrificing long-term fulfillment. Every passion suppressed, every tale empty hidden, leaves an echo of regret that grows louder with time. The heart knows what it desires, and when it is denied expression, life feels flat, hollow, and unfinished. Society also plays a role in this suppression. Women are often told implicitly or explicitly, to prioritize practicality over creativity, conformity over individuality. She may be encouraged to pursue what is expected of her rather than what resonates with her soul. Study this, choose this career, follow this path, and slowly over time, her authentic voice becomes quieter, overshadowed by the chorus of external expectation. She becomes adept at wearing masks, performing well in areas she is told matter, while the passions that make her unique remain locked away, waiting for permission that never comes. Suppressing gifts also has subtle psychological consequences. She may feel envy toward women who embrace their passions, frustrated with herself for not daring, or dissatisfied even when life appears comfortable. There is a persistent, gnawing sense of something missing, a longing that cannot be satisfied by material possessions, accolades, or the approval of others. The deeper truth is that fulfillment is born not from fitting in or meeting expectations, but from honoring the gifts she has been given and expressing them fully in the world. Interestingly, women who suppress their passions often try to compensate in other areas. They may overinvest in relationships, careers, or social status, hoping to fill the void left by neglected dreams. But no amount of external achievement can replace the joy of authentic expression. It is as if a vital energy has been diverted into obligations that, while necessary, cannot nourish the soul. Over time, this misalignment creates tension, restlessness, and a subtle despair that whispers, "This is not all there is." The gifts she refuses to honor are not wasted. They are simply dormant, waiting for her courage to awaken them. The suppression of unique talents also limits impact. Each woman carries contributions the world cannot receive from anyone else. Her creativity, insight, empathy, and unique perspectives are meant to be shared, not hidden. By denying her gifts, she not only diminishes her own fulfillment, but she also deprives the world of the influence only she can provide. Purpose is not selfish, it is a form of service. The moment she dares to express her passions, she not only transforms her own life, but she also inspires and uplifts others, creating ripples far beyond what she may realize. Breaking free from this pattern begins with recognition. She must first acknowledge the gifts and passions she has been suppressing. It may require journaling, reflection, or honest conversations with those she trusts. What excites her? What skills feel natural? What ideas keep returning, insisting on attention? Naming these gifts is the first act of liberation, because awareness precedes action. Once identified, they demand attention, nurturing, and deliberate expression. Action, even in small steps, is essential. She does not need to immediately change careers, launch a business, or pursue every dream fully. What matters is that she begins to act in alignment with her passions. Writing that poem, teaching that skill, starting that small project, every act of honoring. Her gift strengthens her connection to purpose and awakens energy that has been dormant for too long. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it, and every act of courage builds momentum. Another critical step is rejecting the voices that discourage authenticity. Fear, doubt, and social pressure will always be present, but she must prioritize her own voice, her own calling, and her own values. Living in alignment with her gifts is not reckless, it is intentional. Every time she silences the critics, both internal and external, and allows her talents to shine, she moves closer to the light. She was designed to live. Ultimately, suppressing passions and gifts is a subtle but profound form of self-denial. It creates a life that is safe but unremarkable, comfortable but incomplete, visible but not alive. Expressing her unique gifts, on the other hand, is an act of courage, love, and devotion to herself and the world. Every woman who dares to honor her talents discovers that purpose is not distant or elusive. It is always present, waiting for recognition, expression, and courage. The moment she releases what has been hidden, she steps into her power, illuminates her path, and begins to live fully, authentically, and in alignment with her God-given purpose.